Happy Friday. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for making it. We're going to try to make it a smooth meeting, but no, no. I still work today, so I'm still technically on corporate mode, but this is not the office. This is DU Real. It is Friday. It is February 9th. Jackie, I am so excited to be here. We just recorded a new trailer for DU, Andrew, Ray, Jackie, and I, and it went great. And so that'll be coming out pretty soon. And speaking of announcements, we do want to mention that the Colorado tickets for the Colorado retreat are going to be available for Tier 3 Patreon supporters this Sunday. And those dates will be May 30th through June 3rd. So we were in Colorado last year. It was amazing. So, of course, we had to come back for more. And definitely recommend the Colorado retreat because it's a very cannabis-friendly state, they say.
Yes. And before that, California in April. I'm not sure how many tickets are still left for that, but that will be an amazing retreat as well. We're going to be in Big Bear, and I will be there, which I haven't been at the last few, which I'm so excited. I haven't been to a retreat since Vermont back in August. So I'm very much looking forward to that. The retreats are fucking incredible. It's just like the best sleepover. Andrew always describes it as like the best sleepover you could ever think of, like the ultimate sleepover that you always wanted as a kid, like with all your homies. You can do whatever you want, no rules, and we're of age, so substances as well. And you could choose whether to partake or not. It's like really whatever you want to do at the retreat. It's just a space for you to have some space.
Yeah.
Because we don't even realize most of the time as we're moving throughout our lives, like how much we're dealing with, how much is on our plate constantly, how many different plates we're spinning at the same time. And the retreat is a perfect opportunity to just let those all go and sink into the moment. And yeah, it's very, very extremely relaxing. And not because we're like sitting there meditating, but just because we're being ourselves and we're in a group of people who are all doing the same thing. And it's crazy because I've never really experienced a situation like that, like a group like that, where everyone is being fully themselves intentionally. And when you're in that space, you can kind of see a little bit more clearly who you are, like the reality of who you are. And like you can express yourself a little bit more authentically because you're not playing into any sort of expectations about what people want from you or who they think you are or who you think you are. It's just space to be, and so much clarity comes out of that. So the retreats are life-changing. I will scream it from the rooftops forevermore as long as we're doing the retreats. I cannot recommend them any higher. Anywho, yes, we did just record a new intro for Dualistic Unity, and I think it's going to be amazing. It's funny because, we had some awkward pauses or points where we're like, okay, do I pass it now? Or like, how many days a week was that? Like, do we do them 5 or 6? And I think it's just really, it shows our humanity. And I think it's perfectly imperfect, just like everything we do here at Dualistic Unity, right? We're not trying to like give you these well thought out, polished insights or teach you how to be enlightened. Absolutely not. We're all just, we're just people going through whatever this experience of consciousness and subjectivity is. And it's something that we can all relate to, and sort of embracing the fact that there's nowhere to get, there's nowhere to arrive, there's no enlightenment to attain. It's just your life right now. And how do you want to feel? Like, do you want to be beating yourself up or resisting or thinking you should be different or other people should be different or your life should be different? Or do you want to like appreciate it for what it is and let loose a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is enlightenment. Right? It's just not giving a fuck about enlightenment, not trying to get anywhere. And once you realize that, it's like everything is a little bit more bright, a little bit more interesting. There's a lot more possibility on the table, and every single day is exciting as fuck. And so, yeah, I'm just feeling very, very much grateful for, you know, finding this podcast and being a part of it and getting to talk with cool people all the time and just being able to express myself. It really is so liberating after trying to be something for so long.
No, I definitely resonate with that. I love reminding, different members of the community that, DU wouldn't be DU without them being a part of it. Because as amazing as the conversations that you and I have, as amazing as the conversations that Andrew and Ray have, it wouldn't be it wouldn't still be here if there wasn't constant support and attention and contributions and suggestions that are coming from the dualistic unity community and from the Patreon supporters that are financially supporting the DU community and DU growth. And the every time someone purchases a retreat ticket, you're not only paying for the housing or the lodgings and food and some fun treats. You're also investing in this conversation, investing in the dualistic unity exploration, right? Because I always get a little nervous when I say the word community, because it implies that like you that the work changes, that the experience changes now that you have a group of people with similar priorities, similar enough curiosities and perspectives. Because when you're going through the shit, when I'm crying in my shower, I'm not thinking to call Discord. I'm not thinking I'd love to get on a live right now with Jackie. I'm not thinking, I'd love to call someone to make me feel better right now. I was like, no, I am in the thick of it. I am feeling those feelings, and I am what feels like alone in that experience. And so, it feels like I am in a community of one, like as much as I love connecting with everybody, a majority of the experience, a majority of these insights that I learn to some degree by myself. And then I get to share that, and I get to be myself, and I get to, share my process of learning. And then I stumble and I get too cocky about the learning, and then we stumble and we learn from the stumbling. And so it's just this ongoing exploration where I don't have as much pressure to know the next step, because I'm so thoroughly engaged with the current step. And one of the insights from, I think, the a Vancouver retreat was just that the step is the path. So many times I'm wondering, like, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? And it's like just paying attention to the step that you're on feels to some degree like that is the whole path. Because no matter how well, I think I can guess, I never really know what's about to happen next. But what I can focus on is what's happening right now. And so in many ways, this step right now where I'm at feels like the whole path, like the whole point is this step. And so then there's less pressure to know the perfect thing to say next or the perfect thing to do next. So I love that in our new intro, it shows a couple of times where I missaid something, or we thought, do I pass it, like you said, and because it's very authentic. So often we try to be perfect, and then we're not even being ourselves, because we're being this idea of who I should be. And you can feel that. And when someone is authentically being their self and they don't care if they look crazy or cool, I love that. And I'm like, yes, like, do your thing, man. You're in your groove, and I love to see it, because it reminds me that I can do that. And so I do appreciate when we're at the retreats that you are able to see other people letting go, of all the shoulds and coulds and woulds. And you're seeing them just go, fuck it. I'm here and I'm gonna make the most of it. And I don't know what it means about me, but that doesn't matter.
Nothing could really mean anything about you because who the fuck are you talking about? like you, the reality of you? The reality of you is just what you are. Like it's sort of beyond a conceptual label. Like there's very much a distinction between reality and what we think about reality, and that includes what we think about ourselves. And that's something that to me is now pretty clear, but 2 years ago, it's one and the same, right? Like cuz our experience of self is just so close to us. It's so close, and it's a lens that covers just our perception of reality. And yeah, it's so close to us that we don't even notice it's there until we do. And then the changes kind of just sort of unfold from there, and you sort of gain a new perspective that changes the way that you move through the world. And I can say that's definitely happened for me. And the shift is really just the question of like, but is that really true? Like just allowing yourself to question and sit in that space of uncertainty. And so I like how you brought up like the hesitance to use the word community, because um yeah, like it implies like a new identity, and that's the thing that we're sort of trying to steer clear of having people identify as like dualistic uni, I don't know, dualistic unitards or something like that. Oh my god. However they would want to do that, it doesn't matter because like we don't claim that. But yeah, like we're encouraging you to sort of sit in the space in between the labels, in between the concepts, and that being actual reality, right? And like we don't know with certainty what that is at all. Like it is this sort of it's this thing that we know through experience only, and like we know ourselves because we are ourselves, right? But like it's we can't know anything conceptually with certainty. But like when you sit in that space of uncertainty, of not knowing who you are, of not yeah, of not knowing who you are or what's going on, there's like a whole new world of possibility. And plus, you don't have anything to defend and nothing to lose. So you're free. And like all of the ways that your identity groups like push and pull your decision making, your emotions, the people that you enjoy interacting with versus like the people that you think are too different than you to like be your friend, like all of that is out the window. And then there's so much more potential, and potential for connection as well, because literally every single person is in the same boat of being this thing that perceives itself as being separate, but still that's you, the reality of you, which is, you know, at once part of reality and all of reality. And like I understand the excitement and um yeah, like the joy that like coming across this conversation can make you feel. It makes you feel seen. And there is, when we feel seen and we feel like welcomed and appreciated, we feel like we need to identify. Like it's habitual to identify as like part of this group because it feels safe. But once you do that, then there's an other, right? It's people who are in dualistic unity like me. And then there's everybody else who like isn't having this conversation. And then it can very easily turn into I'm smarter, I'm better, I'm more enlightened, I'm more empathetic than these other people that are doing whatever they're doing outside of this community. And that's just not true. Like we're all going through the shit together. There is not one person who has this figured out, not even Ray. And people have the tendency to look up to Ray, which I think is hilarious. He's just been here longer. But there's like nobody who has it figured out or has attained a perfect state of being. Like, we're all just here on the ground together. So the whole purpose for this podcast is to talk about it. Just talk about it. That's all. Don't expect any answer. Don't expect like this conversation to be the solution to all your problems, because trust me, I've been here for a while. It doesn't solve anything. If anything, it's more difficult to stick with this conversation because more and more layers begin to come up, and deeper layers of shit that you have habitually done your entire life that feels secure, but also you realize it's holding you back in certain ways. It's limiting you. And then the challenge is to see that and not run from it, because you already know that you're so much bigger than what you think you are, and you can do you're capable of handling so much more than you think. Like, literally, the limit only exists where you put it, and you don't have to draw one. You don't have to set a bar for yourself. You could just vibe out. Because really, this experience is just for the experience itself. But that's something I'm still working through, very much so, like that this compulsion to go somewhere, to become something. It's just never gonna happen. You're never gonna get there. And so believing and continuing to invest in that idea is just setting yourself up for disappointment. But you really don't have to do with that. And then life can just surprise you at every turn. And it's so friggin' magical the way it works out.
Oh, fuck yes. Because I love, when I was in middle school, they give you like a list of words that you are learning, like new words of the day, and you have to come up with an example of using that word in a sentence. And so one of the words I remember is like such a very distinct memory is the word gregarious, which means that a person that loves to be surrounded by people. And somebody was like, Amanda is very gregarious, and like to this day that is still very true. I love to hang out, I love to connect, I love to listen to people. Getting to know someone feels like pulling a book off of an infinite bookshelf, and I get to explore their stories and see the character development and to see the settings change and different flashbacks, and I may pick up the book and instantly resonate with it or not. I could pick up the book and I could not want to put it down. I want to ask you everything. What's your favorite? When's the first time you had chocolate ice cream? When's the first, like I may want to ask you 1,000,001 questions because I'm so fascinated by the experience of you. But as much as I can connect with people, and I love enjoying the experience of others, I have learned, or at least in my perspective, only I actually go through my shit. So as much as I can share what I'm going through, as much as I can, maybe want to brainstorm options and maybe ask for advice, only I actually go through my shit. And I'm the best person for the job. Like I have been influenced by my shit. I have been influenced by those traumatic experiences, by those lessons and hardships, and so I'm in the best position to appreciate it. Because there used to be a lot of conflict when I would think about maybe my relationship with my dad, and there was a lot of anger because we had a rift, and he just decided he didn't really want to be in my life. And I took that very hard. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, but that's actually not, he's really doing his best. And as personal as that felt, his absence in my life, it wasn't actually personal. He was running from the responsibility of being my parent because he felt like he couldn't handle that. And that had nothing to do with me. But I took it personally because I thought that something was wrong with me. I thought that I did something or that I wasn't enough to stay for. Right. And so I went through a phase where it was like acceptance and like he didn't really mean to just break my heart. Like, it happened, but he was really just like running and panicking and thinking that, he couldn't grow in that situation. And then I went through the phase of, really appreciating him leaving and really being grateful for his absence, because it showed me how much I could take. It showed me how much I could love so fully, be heartbroken, be so afraid to love again, to take the plunge, to trust myself when I felt like I needed to trust other people, and learning that really who I was scared to trust was myself. I was scared that if I were to give myself or love my love to that degree again, that I wouldn't be able to pick myself up if something happened, if someone else decided to leave. And then I got to a place where I really trusted myself that, like, no matter what happens, I'm going to love with reckless abandon. I'm going to love because I feel like loving. I'm going to love because it is a part of life that I've deeply missed. And I was open to everything. And so I am so grateful that he left. Because in my opinion, there's no way that I would have been able to learn to trust myself so deeply, or to appreciate his absence so deeply, that I'm grateful for it. So that's why I was like, nobody could go through my shit, and nobody could appreciate my shit better than I can, because I had all those wonderful memories with him. That's why it stung when he left, because I was like, I was absolutely, the typical daddy's little girl, and I worshiped him. And so I was like, how was that not enough? And it's because it had nothing to do with me, but I couldn't learn all of those other lifelong lessons. I couldn't deepen my relationship with myself, with reality, and with others, until I appreciated the shit that I was perfectly built to handle and feel grateful for. So it's like, as much as I have learned so much from dear friends, from, family and friends, and from other people, it's really from my pain that I learned the most. And so that's why I'm like, yes, it feels like a community because it feels like a family, but it's not a community where no one's going to take your shit from your plate, and no one should. Like, you are the best person to process it, maybe not always jump for joy for it, but to process it and to make something, to water that pile of shit and let something beautiful grow out of it. You're the best and only gardener that can transform that shit pile into some stuff. You can, the potential's there, and only you can, work that clay or work that shit pile and make something grow out of it.
Yeah, here at DU, I don't want to say shit lovers. We are shit lovers. Maybe not lovers, because we don't love
Appreciators,
shit all the time. Yeah, definitely some shit appreciators, which is very uncommon. Most people just want to get rid of their shit or heal from their shit, get over it. But when you really are able to look at it and, look at all of the fucking pain and feel it, but then also be able to appreciate how, like you said, like, it shows you what you can take, and it informs the way that you treat people moving forward and the way that you love. And I love that you brought up, like, loving fully and almost recklessly, right? Because, with Valentine's Day coming up next week and everything, I feel like that's top. Just love is an interesting thing to touch on. And I've definitely felt that as well. Just the hesitancy after you get really fucking hurt to open up again. And yeah, I've actually been going through that recently. I've been seeing somebody, and I feel this fear of letting somebody close to me again, because, a year ago I went through this bad breakup and I was torn up, and like, it's a lot to, because, as pleasant as the feelings of, being in love or just having people close to you are, like, the opposite end of the spectrum is bound to be down the line, right? And that's okay to accept as long as you're not seeing the love as good and the heartbreak as bad. Like, for the love to exist, the heartbreak has to exist. The pain, the loss, like, they're completely interdependent on each other. And loving and losing and going through that spectrum of emotions is what makes life so beautiful and meaningful. Like it wouldn't be so deeply moving if we didn't get fucked up sometimes. So, yeah, I think that's just a beautiful lesson because we don't need to shy away from experience. Like, we're going to experience life regardless. And there's really no point to holding ourselves back out of fear because that's not going to save us from uncertainty. That's not going to save us from ever experiencing pain or hurt again. It's just going to limit the amount of joy that we experience. It's we're holding ourselves back, and that's just not really worthwhile to do anymore. It's especially because I know I'm capable of anything. I'm capable of surviving anything. Just because I've built faith in myself, and I know that even though part of me thinks I wouldn't be able to handle another heartbreak, I know that's not true. So it's like calling your own bluff constantly, and we don't have to be afraid of life. Sometimes I definitely have those thoughts of like, wow, every day for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to feed myself 3 times a day. I'm going to have to brush my teeth. I'm going to have to like go outside in the cold and be uncomfortable or like there's always the possibility I could fall down and scrape my knee. And sometimes when I think about that, I'm like, that feels like a lot of shit. That feels like a lot. And when I'm viewing myself as just the idea of myself, of the concept of Jackie, it seems like it might be too much for her to take sometimes. But fuck that concept. I'm not that concept. And whenever I get caught up in those types of thoughts, I just try and like zoom back into right now. Like literally this room, this computer, and the room that I'm in is all that exists to me right now. The future doesn't exist. All of that theoretical suffering that I'm coming up with in my mind is just theoretical. And I'm also not thinking about all of the beautiful, wonderful, joyful things that also will happen because they're equal, right? Like, and it depends always how you're looking at something. Nothing is inherently good, nothing is inherently bad to experience. It's all just like different shades on the color wheel. And all of them are required to paint the most like beautiful, intricate, detailed picture and color your experience. And yeah, like why would I limit my color palette just because I'm afraid I'm like, oh, I don't like blue. I don't like blue. That makes me feel weird. So, but anywho, you can't actually limit the color palette. You're still going to experience all of it regardless, whether you like it or not. So, do you want to mentally clench up? Do you want to make shit harder than it has to be? Or do you just want to cruise through life and be able to appreciate things while they're there with the understanding that they might leave and you'll be fine regardless? Like you've always been fine. No matter what you've been through, you've survived it. And so that alone should be enough to make you understand that it's always going to be okay. Right? It's like, it's okay. Reality is okay exactly as it is. And it only doesn't feel okay when you're telling yourself that it's not, or you're coming up with some reason, but that reason is never based in objectivity. It's always based in some sort of biased subjective perspective based on your past and based on your conditioning. But once you recognize that that's not the end all be all, then everything becomes a little bit lighter.
Oh yeah, and what what shocked me when I was trying to like be an adult, like I just turned 18, I'm trying to figure out like how can I be a successful adult, and I didn't even realize for years how stressed I was, how seriously I made things, how heavy I made things, because I wasn't even paying attention. I wasn't even noticing. I was just focusing on, getting into college and getting the right degree and getting the right job and getting the right partner, and I was so overwhelmed by all of the constant messaging around me about how, in so many ways, I'm not enough until I have this, this, and this. I'm not enough until I have this partner. I have this validation, this marker of success. And, I didn't even realize that there was an alternative option. And I used to love seeing kooky people. And I used to love that they were kooky because that's what people called them, that were just like not fitting the status quo, not fitting the norm. And, like the spinster who never got married but was having a blast. And so like people like I'd hear like the women in my family talking shit about that, like, oh, she never got married. Well, it's because of this, this, and this, and they're in marriages that they're miserable in, but they're judging someone who's not in a marriage, who is living to the beat of their own drum, and they're criticizing that. And so, but these are people that I looked up to. So I'm like, oh, well, I love the like the freedom that that person is exhibiting, but I don't know if I could do that. I couldn't do that because my parents have told me the right way. My schools, my cities, have told me the right way to do things, and I don't want to be shunned. I don't want to be kicked out because I was living for this idea. I was living for this template, this socially approved template. And I didn't start to question it until like I would have some of those things and it just didn't feel like I thought it would. We went to college, we had an amazing time. We graduate, we're working in that corporate office, we're dating this nice guy, we're living together, and it just felt off, because a lot of those choices I didn't make to experience them. I didn't actually make them for me. I made them because I thought I was supposed to. So even though they were the approved choices that I was told are supposed to be the most fulfilling, I felt empty. And I'm so glad that like I got a taste of like doing it right and how that did not feel the way that I thought it was going to feel. And then it just made me just question, like, I know that everyone says that this is the right way, but it just doesn't feel right. And the more I looked around, the more I could see, like when I finally was not focusing just on me and what I was doing, and I could look at other people, and the more I looked, the more tense, the more the more clenched feeling I could see, and people were just terrified and panicking and running from one approved choice to the next and judging themselves when they were in the middle. We so easily want to like fall on labels, but like something that I think about was we felt like friends before we said we were friends. So did we ever really need to say, like, did we ever really need to put the label on it? I feel love before I say it. I feel content before I say that, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I feel that, so it just definitely makes me love the connection that we feel, but I don't feel as tied to the word community because I'm like, I'm still gonna talk to you motherfuckers, whether we have the word community or not. I'm still gonna love hanging out and shooting the shit because that's how I can choose to spend my time. And whether or not it's lasts forever, and I mean this both for like our collective group that meets, or when I'm talking to somebody in a romantic context, I don't know if it's gonna last forever. I never do, but I'm going to enjoy the fuck out of it right now. I'm going to show up. I'm going to relish this moment and savor it, because if it did end, I like the experience of looking back and going, you know, it's over, but damn, we squeezed every drop out of that fucking, you know, out of that orange, every drop of juice. We squeezed every bit and we savored every sip. So it's not here, but when it was here, I enjoyed it. And that feels like it's enough.
That was beautifully said, Amanda. Yeah, I like that you pointed out that, like, no matter how much, like, you want to tell yourself you're doing the right thing, or like you said, like, you're choosing the approved choices, shouldn't I be happy? Like, there's no matter how much you try and conceptually tell yourself you're happy, or like judge other people for, not living their life the way you think that you should be living yours, you're still left with your life. Like, you can judge and judge and judge all you want. Like you mentioned the spinster, right? Like, your family members like judging a single woman for living her best life when they're in an unhappy marriage. Like, yeah, you can judge, but how are you? How are you doing for real? Like, honestly, like, do you just think you should be doing good? Because you can't actually lie to yourself. You know how you feel, and not in a conceptual way, not in a way where it's like, I am definitely happy, but like, you feel the feeling. And like, the only reason we feel compelled to judge is because we aren't happy in our own life. Because I guarantee the single woman isn't over there judging the married women, because she's out there doing her thing. Like, and if she was unsatisfied, then maybe she would be judging the married women. It's just like, we only feel compelled to judge other people when we're actually judging ourselves for the choices that we've made. So that's just an important thing to keep in mind. And I check myself on that all the time. I'm like, if I'm like in a social situation and somebody's annoying me or pissing me off, or like, or somebody does something that I straight up don't agree with, or like, it like gets a reaction out of me, rather than being like, yeah, that person's an asshole, or yeah, they're annoying, or pinning it on them. More recently, I've been turning it back on myself. And so I'm like, well, why do you think that? And it's always because I'm attached to something. Maybe it's even like a little bit subconscious. And it's not like I'm thinking like, oh, well, I, am, for example, like, I am a yoga teacher, so I maybe judge people who like aren't mindful sometimes. I'm like, wow, they could really slow down. And I'm like, okay, well, okay, Miss High Horse. And that has really allowed me to experience less annoyance in general with people and situations, because I'm not validating the belief that if I feel a certain way, it's because other people are making me feel that way. It's not about them. It's always me. So, like, and the more that I'm able to look at that, like, I'm actually able to work through those feelings and they don't come up as often. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just sort of more neutral in how I view everyone and how I view myself. And yeah, it just comes with the grace from having that little bit of uncertainty. Like, you give yourself a little bit of a break, a little bit more grace, because I don't actually know. And like, if they're judging me, I know it's because they're hurting. So I don't know. You just have to be honest with yourself, like Andrew said. Self-honesty is the biggest key to freedom from yourself, because you can call yourself on the bullshit that you're telling yourself is true, and the suffering that you're causing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do, it doesn't have as much power over you.
Oh yeah, and it it feels easy to like think back to days where I was like walking on sunshine and loving being, you know, the experience of that moment, and like nothing could rattle me. But then there are some times where I'm in a funk and it's like the way you sneeze is annoying. Like it's just, but it's always exactly like you said, you know, we judge people when we're unhappy with ourselves, when it takes nothing. Everything is an annoyance. But when you think back to the days where you felt like you were walking on sunshine, nobody could do anything to rattle you. You were waiting an extra 5 seconds to hold the door open for someone. You were chatting a little bit longer at the cash register. You were, you know, deciding to call a friend just to be like, hey, was thinking about you, I love you. You free for a drink? Or you free for, you know, to hang out later, you know. So, you know, when you're feeling amazing, you never want to judge anyone else, because you don't feel like you're less than. You don't feel like you're not enough. You don't think that you're doing anything wrong. And when you're in that mindset, the idea of judging someone else doesn't even register as a possibility for you in those moments. And so it's definitely important to maintain that honesty with yourself, and calling yourself out on your bullshit. You know, I was driving down the road one day, and it's a pretty steep kind of hill, and I'm going maybe like 20, 25 miles an hour, because it is a hill. So like if you go faster, like it's a NASCAR race, all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, who shot the gun, you know? You know. And I'm cruising and it's daytime, so I see everything. And as I'm coming down, the road winds a little bit to the left, and I'm passing streets, perpendicular streets, and a car zips past their stop sign and just crosses over to the other side, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you motherfucker. And I start laughing, because in that moment, it hit me like I was paying attention and I was going a slower speed. And I saw that driver as soon as they came out, like they appeared out of nowhere, but I saw them hit that point where they were supposed to stop at the stop sign. And I saw them like within plenty of time. So I slowed down even a little bit more, like I hit my brakes. And it all worked out beautifully. And I could feel a part of me getting upset, like this motherfucker, like we're sharing the road, like you're supposed to be paying attention, like, and then I thought to myself, but they weren't paying attention, and I was. And really, that's all that needs to happen in my experience, in my life. I need to be the one that's paying attention, because it's not personal. That person wasn't gunning it past that stop sign because they wanted to scare the shit out of me on a hill. You know, they weren't specifically thinking, you know what I'd like to do. I feel like, causing mayhem right now. Like they were possibly late. They could have been on their way to work. It could have been a family emergency. They're rushing to a hospital, or they're just stressed because they lost their job, or their kid is sick, or it could be anything, right? And so the fact that they're not paying attention to me in particular really isn't required, because as long as I'm paying attention, I can kind of balance out when someone else is not making the consideration that they share the earth, they share the city, they share the road with another person, right? As long as one of us is paying attention, both of us are good. And sometimes I'm that person. And I reminded myself then, like, sometimes I'm the person who's not paying attention, that's not remembering that I'm sharing this space with you. And so it's like, as long as I'm paying attention, I can cover my ass. And it's nice when someone else is considerate as well, but it's actually not required. And I used to get so upset with people because I thought, like, how dare you? You're supposed to. And it's like, no, it's that I thought that they were supposed to with me. I didn't really care if they weren't paying attention to anybody else. It was like I wanted to be the most important because I didn't feel like I was important. And so it's like I needed that external validation of other people to treat me like I mattered because I didn't feel that way. And then it just became more of, as long as I'm paying attention to how I'm feeling, not trying to solve myself like I'm a problem, but just paying attention to what's coming up, paying attention to where my attention lies, paying attention to where I'm holding on to. As long as I'm really paying attention, at least a good chunk of the time, like things have a way of just moving along pretty smoothly. And when we do have a bump, it's usually because I wasn't paying attention. And so Oh my goodness. But that's, that's just something that I was thinking about recently, about just paying attention, and how that doesn't need to be something that I say I should do, but it's something that I can do.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction. We're not saying that you need to be on high alert all the time. Because one, that's impossible. Like, we come in and out of attention. Our thoughts are very persuasive sometimes. And like they start talking, we kind of think it's us for a second. And we're paying attention to that. And we're not really like, it's like we're in the back of our mind rather than at the forefront, paying attention like in the direct moment. We're kind of like lagging behind a little bit and in daydreaming land. And it's okay to go in and out of that. Nobody can pay perfect attention all the time. And I like what Andrew said in the comments about like he knows that there's parts of himself that he doesn't want to look at, but then he's also judging himself for not looking at, like, he's still judging himself for those parts even though he's not willing to look at them, right? Like uh, and none of that is necessary. Like the judgment only comes from the idea that we need to be changing or growing in certain ways, or like we sort of create instantaneously like narratives about how we should be changing, and it's hard to turn that part off, the part of you that makes those narratives and creates the bars and the expectations, because it's fucking habitual. And it's not about being perfect with that either. Like it's not about being completely free all the time. Like that's another illusion of getting somewhere. And as much as we want to encourage paying attention, because most of the time people are running on autopilot and no attention is really being paid to what's actually happening. Um, like we're like, hey, there might be something else going on beyond just what you're thinking about. But you don't have to live there all the time. Like we have this subjective experience. I don't want to say for a reason, because we can't really say what that reason is, but it's also not to be just discounted and thrown away, right? Like there's something to be learned from the experience of not paying attention and going in and out of clarity and getting lost and maybe sitting in a dark pit of self judgment for a little bit. We've all been there. All of that is just as valid of an experience. And you're not living life better if you feel free more of the time. It's just, how do you want to experience your life? Like, do you want to make it into this thing that's just a constant grind? A constant, like, you have to be paying attention. You have to be paying attention or else some shit could happen. Yeah, shit's gonna happen regardless. Like, that doesn't give you control either. Paying attention doesn't give you control. It might give you a little bit more influence because you can actually work with what's happening rather than like trying to impose your will through thought. But yeah, I just thought that was an important thing to bring up. It's like that's not getting you anywhere either. So it's mostly just like being okay with wherever you're at. And when you're okay with wherever you're at, the attention comes a little bit easier because you don't get swept up in thoughts about judgment and thinking about where you should be or how you should be feeling. It's just like, okay, well, anything is okay to be feeling. Like, so what am I feeling right now? And you get a little bit more curious rather than, you know, stressed out about it. This doesn't have to be a stressful thing. It's definitely uncomfortable to look at your shit and your patterns and, be brutally self-honest with yourself. That's definitely true. But you don't have to perceive it as being difficult, because when you do that, that's what's making it difficult. Otherwise, it's just an experience that you're having and you deal with it like you deal with everything else.
Hmm. I loved thinking about the word like difficult and hard when I was thinking about like learning. And, so many times when I would tell myself that something is hard or difficult, usually it was just unfamiliar. And usually the things that I would say are easy are the things that I am very familiar with, and so I started to frame learning in that way or I would frame like potential in that way. It's like, no, it's not that, anything, and from my perspective at that time was like, it's not that anything is really hard, it's just unfamiliar. And the more exposure, the more attention and time I put towards it, everything starts to feel easier, but really it's just starting to feel more familiar. You have more trust in yourself with things that are familiar versus things that are unfamiliar. You don't really know how you are in relation to the things that are unfamiliar, so you want to say that they're hard, and it makes you less likely to even engage them. Um, and so that's what I started framing. And I was like, no, it's not that it's hard, it's just unfamiliar. And the more time and attention, the more familiar it gets, the more easier it seems. And that really helped me snap myself out of like this self-induced paralyzed experience where, I wouldn't want to take the plunge and jump into uncertainty because I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to really deal with another hard challenge. I don't really want to deal with another hard lesson. But when I started to say it was just unfamiliar, I was like, yeah, but I am curious about what's unfamiliar. And then it stopped being that like about a skill set or a skill level, and it started to be more about what was driving that attention. And I was curious. Curiosity was driving the attention more than needing to prove something to myself. And so I like how we can just like constantly change the lens that we see things through or change the perspective, because one leads to the next and they're all kind of connected. And it's not that I'm ever looking to be, you know I don't know, looking through a perspective that like knows everything. It's just I really like that I can change so much just by how I look at it, or the perspective or the mindset that's driving that. And so just like the words, like when I'm struggling to find the right word to say, it's like, yeah, well, how am I feeling? And I can share that. And even if I don't think I have the right words, if the feeling is authentic, then the words don't really matter. In the same way that like where I focus my attention doesn't matter if I'm just focusing it because I choose to, because I'm curious, and not because I want it to make me become something after I learn this new skill or learn about this new topic or something. It feels a lot lighter to just explore because I'm curious versus exploring so that I can finally find that missing piece.
Yeah, great point, Amanda. Yeah, there's a difference between like oh fuck, I completely forgot what I was gonna say. That's so funny. um, yeah, there's a big difference between like what you're doing and how you're doing it, and what
Yes.
matters is how you're doing it. You could be doing the same thing, but if your mindset is judgmental and, like you said, trying to get anywhere and trying to prove something rather than from a state of curiosity, like that's going to feel a lot more difficult. Like you're just making it way harder on yourself when
Mhm.
you could do that same exact thing with an attitude of curiosity and appreciation and like openness.
Mhm.
And honestly, you're going to get more out of it if you approach it with curiosity. And I love that, saying that things like not saying that things are difficult and rather saying that they're unfamiliar, because that's completely true. And you kind of called me out because there are a lot of things that I think about doing and I'm like, wow, that sounds really hard.
I
Like
do it too,
there
still to this day.
there are a lot of there are a lot of things that I don't really know how to do. And that is just an avoidance mechanism. Telling yourself something is difficult is a good enough excuse for you to not want to do it. You're like,
Right?
well, I don't want to do something that's difficult. I'd rather just do something that's easier, that I'm familiar with, that I know I will enjoy. And then
Mhm.
you can just keep putting off the unfamiliar thing and you stay stagnant. as a result. But like if you want to experience more of reality, if you want to like push yourself out of your comfort zone, like if there's something that you want to do, not because of what it means about you, but just out of a genuine curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
like you can, there's no right way to start doing it. And what I fall into a lot of times is expecting myself to be good at things immediately
Oh,
and like not because it's all tied to the idea of myself
mm-hmm.
of being somebody who's smart and capable or whatever. Like I don't want to question those things that I stake my identity in.
Mm-hmm.
And doing something that's unfamiliar and maybe not being good at it the first time or like taking a while to learn it, that might make me feel bad about myself if I'm still attaching to that identity about what things mean about me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not doing that, then it's like you can sort of walk into anything and like it goes how it goes. And
Yes.
that's how humans learn, right? By doing, assessing, adjusting,
Yes.
doing again, and not by like sitting back and be like, hmm, how is like you can't figure out how something's gonna go until you just do it.
Yeah.
So you can just fucking hop in. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I found with this process of doing the podcast as well, because before we started, when I agreed to like be a co-host, I was like, oh shit. I've never done a podcast. Like, what am I going to talk about? As if I could know what I was going to want to talk about for like all of the episodes that I've recorded, like wanting to be able to control that. And there is no control. And like I wanted to be, maybe part of me wanted to be perceived as somebody who like was articulate or like understood what this conversation is about. All of that is bullshit. This conversation isn't about anything. Like I am not a certain type of person. I'm not really even a person. I can't say that with certainty. You know? I'm just me and I'm talking right now. And that's all that I really, that's as far as my scope has to go.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found through doing that, it's just, yeah, if you approach situations with enthusiasm, the
Mm-hmm.
learning just kind of happens. And yeah, the mistakes are there, whatever, but like it's not about having a perfect product. So I can just keep moving on. And those mistakes actually allow me to get quote unquote better, right? It's like I'm able to actually learn because I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's been a great lesson for me that I think I want to now expand into other areas of my life, right? And because doing something new doesn't have to be scary. It's only scary if you tell yourself it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I love Ray put into the comments enthusiasm, because I was like, they curiosity and enthusiasm go hand in hand. You know, you when you're curious about something, you feel that enthusiasm to explore that curiosity, and as you're exploring, it's in like your enthusiasm is building, and that's a good gauge for you, like when you're thinking about what to do. Because I know a lot of times I see in the comments or in the Discord, people are like, I've let go of my idea of myself, and now I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't know how to make a choice. And it's like, just make any choice, see how you feel when you're in the midst of that choice, and you pivot from there. Because I think about like more day-to-day examples, like you're thinking about cleaning your apartment. You've got dishes to do, you've got laundry, you've got maybe dinner to make, and maybe a friend to call. And so you think like, which one do I do first? It's like, just pick any of them. And then I'll pick the dishes first, and then I'll start doing them. I'm like, fuck this, I don't want to do these dishes anymore. And then I switch, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do laundry. So I'm grabbing the laundry, we go downstairs, we put the load to the wash, we come back up, we call the friend, we're doing the dishes or we're calling the friend. And then like, so it's letting yourself just find out. I don't know for sure if the choice I'm making, I'm going to be enthusiastic about it, but I'm not going to know. I really won't know until I'm actually doing it. So it's just pick it and find out, because you can always pivot, you can always change. Yeah, there is. It's so funny how many times I felt like I had to make the right choice, because it's like that choice, I was going to be locked into that choice for eternity. Like, that's it. It's dishes now or nothing. You'll be cemented in front of the sink until the dishes are done. It's like, no, life is fluid, and so are you, so are we. And so and when I remind myself of that, I feel a lot lighter in making the choices, because I know that I can change it at any point. There is nothing that I have to do, but there is so much that I can do. And when I'm honest about how I'm feeling as I'm doing, we can dance across choices versus nervously step from one choice to the next. I'd rather dance.
Me too, Amanda. And sometimes when you're dancing, you look a little goofy. Sometimes you look really grateful or graceful. Sometimes you fall. Sometimes you step on somebody's toes. And it's all allowed. We're all out here on the dance floor together doing our thing. And it's not about what your dancing looks like, it's about how you feel.
Mhm.
And we're just trying to feel a little bit more free, like just a little bit free from ourselves, from our own ideas, from our own concepts about what we need, so that we can just fuck around and find out
Mhm.
and just keep doing that over and over.
Mhm.
Like, I want to find out a lot of things. I want to find out how a lot of things are. But in order to do that, I have to fuck around, and fucking around has ripples. And
Yeah.
sometimes I won't like those ripples. So, but will that stop me from continuing to fuck around? Absolutely not, because I refuse to be stuck. I refuse to glue my feet to the ground where
Mhm.
I'm comfortable,
Yeah.
because the only one keeping us stuck is ourselves. Like, I keep saying that, but it's so true. And
Mhm.
it can be so hard to admit. And then once you do, you're in this really uncomfortable, really vulnerable state of just pure freedom.
Mhm.
And I think it's good that we come in and out of it, because if we were always there, that would be very intense. And like, fuck it, we're human. Sometimes we want a little comfort sometimes.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's okay, right? Like, don't beat yourself up for just, you know, being a human, or leaning into your old patterning, or avoiding something, because that shame is just because that's what's going to keep you stuck. And it's so paradoxical that,
Mhm.
like, you actually speed up by letting go, like, not by like trying to force yourself to go faster. Like, things flow a lot easier the less you're trying, honestly. Like, still try a little bit, but I think most of us tend to try way more than we think, well, way more than we actually need to, because we think that's going to guarantee anything or give us some sort of control, and it's just not. So, yeah, continue to fuck around and find out. And just like Ray put in the comments, DU is the process of fucking and fucking around and finding out. Recorded. Okay? Around is a critical word there. But yeah, I think this
That's
is a
amazing.
great place to maybe wrap up the episode. This was a really fun one. Thank you guys all for joining us in the comments. I see Tamara and Jay and Andrew, of course. So we appreciate it, guys. Thank you for your comments. We love you all so much. And we'll be back next Friday. But also, don't forget California mini retreat coming up in April. Still a couple tickets left for that, as well as the
Oh yeah.
Colorado retreat this summer. It's going to be May 30th to June 3rd.
Mhm.
And tickets are available for tier 3 only right now. It should be going out
December.
for the rest of Patreon soon. But if you're on tier 3, hop on that now. It's going to be a dope retreat, and we're going to be smoking lots of weed. So
Mhm.
Be there or be square.
That's right. That's right. While we roll cylinders. But yes, the tier 3 are going to get access to the Colorado retreat tickets this Sunday. So stay tuned for more information, and we'll see you guys next Friday. Love you. Bye.